Right, but what did she say? Who was the governing authority?
God.
Okay, which one?
You got me there.
She didn't specify.
Well, in her mind,
Well, see, this is this is the problem with ambiguity.
Yep.
Just interrupt JD.
So watch what happens. Watch how masterful Satan is.
Let's see how masterful Satan is.
Because his path is probably a whole lot better than one I could pick out.
Yeah, agreed.
Because if there's something to lose, drop, spill, break, or mutilate, I will do that every time. Because I'm a big, dumb kid.
Yeah, it's a false sense of security. And, yeah, though the 99% of things helpful too.
Hand.
Yeah, it is.
That the shot thing is going to force all of our hands. They are not. I don't see them slowing down on that. I could be wrong, but I mean, they want it all. They want it all. They're all in. All the chips are on the table. So, really, how do you thwart that? You know?
Okay. Thank you for joining us back here on Just Conspiracy, where we just wish to conspire to create a better world for future generations than the world we all grew up in. So right now we're going to listen to the great shaman teach everybody law, because he showed up on the law show that JJ and JD run, and we're going to hear all of his infinite wisdom and how smart he is, because, well, he's just the best law teacher ever, because the Creator put it on his heart. Let's see what happens.
Do people understand what duplicity?
Oh, and just for the record, I put JJ and JD as administrators over the Facebook page because, quite frankly, it annoys the living piss out of me having to approve all those things. And I'm not going to take the time to watch the videos all the way through. I'd love to lie to you guys and say I have that kind of time, but I do not. And these guys do, and I trust them. So they can do a better job than I did at it.
We'll do our best, Shon. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for the extra workload there, buddy.
Hey, you don't have to do anything. I don't. I just pop in every once in a while and I say one thing that's on my mind, and then I leave. Everybody else can talk as much as they wish. Well, most people. I've had to boot a couple for being mean, but
yeah.
Anywho,
Or they deserved it.
you had something you wanted to.
Did you hear that? Shon had to boot a couple of people because they were being mean. Not y'all. Not all of y'all. See, Shon thinks he's doing this all by himself because he's so great and y'all are too stupid to run a law show. That's what he thinks. That's exactly what he thinks. And what does JJ do? Oh, that's so funny. You're so clever in law. Well, we performed an administrative court and got all the people who actually knew law off the show. They deserved it. And what did I tell you, JD? Shon doesn't actually produce anything. He's not even going to actually produce administration on his own Facebook page. He's going to have you and JJ do it because he doesn't do anything. He just wishes for y'all to give him a platform. So whenever he wishes to accept his, like, everybody treating him like God, he can just show up. Yes, treat me like God. Yes, let me interrupt you and walk all over you all the time and not teach you about law. But y'all will be so razzle-dazzled, you won't even notice.
Talk about. Why don't you and JD talk about what you want to talk about?
We did. You came in and
we were just talking about duplicity, double vision.
Oh, so I came in and took over and
we were talking about.
I should have. I'm sorry.
It's right in line with what we were talking about, so it works out.
Watch how masterful Satan is.
I mean, it's just, the whole double-mindedness of it, and you're laying out the remedy of what we were talking about. So Works out.
Because if there's something to lose, drop, spill, break, or mutilate, I will do that every time.
So you guys want to take a couple questions on the duplicity topic?
Watch how masterful Satan is.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Let's see what people think about
Before Shon runs
what we
off.
talked about and what it means to them, what they hear people saying. I mean, I think a lot of, the general public obviously doesn't even know what any of this is about.
Before Shon runs off, let's get all of his infinite wisdom and his infinite advice. Because most of the general public, they don't even know what this is all about. They don't know law. So let's have Shon teach us about duplicity. And boy, oh boy, are y'all going to get a lesson in duplicity.
The reality is none of us knew each other 2 years ago. Watch how masterful Satan is. And here we are.
Yep.
And all of us let ego get in the way, some more than others. I know I'm bad for it sometimes. But if we can really just kind of get to the root of the problem here and figure out the problem is we're in the wrong damn kingdom. It's just that simple. Otherwise, the notice of appearance is bullshit. And everything we taught about it is wrong. It either means something or it doesn't. Mm-hmm. And we're either, because if there's something to lose, drop, spill, break, I will do that every time. Cannot have it both ways. You cannot.
Let's get to the root of the problem here. And that's Shon. Shon is the root of the problem. He even tells you, he lets ego get in the way all the time. He even tells you, if I can still break, mutilate it, whatever, I will do that every time. Watch how masterful Satan is. The root of the problem, Shon. He fooled y'all. Ha-ha. He's telling you, right here, see, he's being honest about it. He's not lying. And people are just choosing to go along with it. Are choosing to violate the law for him. Because they have faith in him. For some reason, I don't know. And did you hear what he said? None of us even knew each other 2 years ago. You're right. Shon, none of y'all knew each other 2 years ago. But 2 years ago, I had been working with JD over the summer to take care of his little issue that he had with the state of Florida. And 2 years ago in October, I met with JD when I went down to Disney World. But here's the real thing, is why haven't any of y'all known each other for longer than 2 years? Because all of the people who have been around this movement longer than 2 years went with me. They all came with this guy. You want to know why? Because they know how Shon is. They've already seen it, especially anybody who was around when we were still with Gus. They already saw this play out. They knew the game. He could only get the newcomers. He could only trick the new people who had just showed up to the field. They didn't know what the game was.
But it dawned on me that I would loan my child out before I would loan my car. And that's true. Like, you'll let somebody take the most important thing you have next to your soul and your husband in that order. But if somebody said, "Can I borrow your car?" you'd be like, "I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It's kind of an expensive car." But that's how we think, isn't it? It doesn't make us bad. It just makes us people.
You're following a guy who would give away his daughter, his child, before his car. And then laugh about it. Ha 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 ha. Is this really, really the influence that you wish to have teaching you law? And it doesn't make him bad. It just makes him people. Well, he actually says all of y'all. Doesn't make y'all bad. It just makes y'all people. And look at what he said. He was like, give up not my God, not my husband. What about your wife, Shon? Would you give up your wife before your car? But let's kick John and Joni out of the group for saying we should respect people, and then kick a lot of other people out of the group just because they might be on their side. Because that's the way law works.
You know, because like Don Ash said, hey, I know y'all got your law, but we got ours. That tells you right there it's two different kingdoms, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody can't see that, I really don't know where you can go from there. And apparently that number one step of God thing is pretty important, since Don Ash differentiated between it in a freaking courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
Under the penalty of perjury, mind you. And he didn't lie.
You see, Shon's not lying, but he kind of is, because Don Ash didn't say, y'all have your law and we have ours, or whatever. Don Ash said, I had my law. He said, I'm bound to obey the law and uphold the law that I follow, just like you're bound to uphold the law that you follow. And you'll want to know how I know that Shon and the rest of them do not follow that same law, so it can't be our law? Because they break it. They violate it. Because you can't do what y'all are doing in law. Not in the Creator's law. It's a violation. That's how I know. Shon himself told me that if they would have subpoenaed him, he would have ran. That's not upholding the law. He was too scared to even walk into the court that day. That's not upholding the law. But yet, he's going to go on to the show, use my testimony that I put up on the stand, you know, when I had to verify things, use Joni's recording, and then teach y'all bad law because he doesn't actually know what it's about. Let's hear what Don Ash actually said. Let's hear if he said y'all's law or your law. Let's hear this.
I guess my trouble here is I have laws that I'm bound to follow. Just like you say, you've got laws you're bound to follow. And so I'm applying the laws I'm bound to follow in the parameters of this relationship that I've reviewed and looked at, probably a lot more than you have. And I need to get to a point where these people can move on with their lives and focus on the betterment of their children. Just like what you said is exactly right. When you respect, you said that, you respect the mother of your child, and you talked about how you two work together on that. Perfect.
Did you hear that? He said, you respect the mother of your child. Yes, I do. Yes, I have my law that I follow. And I try and teach other people this law so that we can bring heaven down to earth. But the problem is that most people don't wish to know this law. Rather than following the law, following lawful process, okay, convicting somebody by a jury of their peers, of the people that hang out with them, like I was trying to do. No, JJ, JD, Shon, and all of them run away, having a little administrative court, and then just decide for the rest of y'all, oh, we're going to boot John and Joni and anybody who agrees with them or thinks they might be right. Because that's the law over here in our administrative process. And then we're going to teach y'all about duplicity. Because you're still hanging out with us trying to learn law. I don't know how much more duplicitous you could be. That's literally what I just heard. Let's see what else Shon has to say in his infinite wisdom.
No. I man present at court.
I say before court.
I woman present at court. No.
Nope.
Well, you can do what you want. I don't know how you can get there before the court's there, but...
Oh, you're so clever, Shon.
It's as important as what God is. I mean, this is what we're always saying with the words. There can't be ambiguity. When people go into court, this is the double-mindedness. It doesn't necessarily mean it's negative. Just like with Kemp. Like, I talked to him about this 2 days ago. He knows. And he agrees with me. He knows he was bouncing in and out. And it was just, he train wrecked it so bad. He didn't know how to fix it. I mean, that's not his mouth. Like, we talked about that. It's not like, you know, like it was just, you cannot, once you leave those threads down, think of a thread on a garment that you're wearing. When you leave those threads, it's the more you pull and wash and tug and poke and prod, the worse it gets. You gotta try to eliminate. And look, I don't have all the answers. Court is fluid, and I don't care what anybody tells you. You get in there, you just gotta kind of know how to roll, man.
You know what, Shon? I talked to Kemp too. Probably my guess is that you asked him to call me, but ironically enough, we talked this past Tuesday, 2 days ago. Okay, and JJ, you said that Kemp dumped me. Okay, guess what? He still has 3 felonies against him that I put up on my YouTube channel. How you would get out of that in law? I put it up on my YouTube channel. While he was in jail, he still has those felonies against him. And Shon has him convinced that it's all his fault. It's all his fault because he's being too duplicitous. He's in both worlds. I basically had him out and he went right back in. And I told him, I don't know why he left. JJ, you were here. You don't know why he left. You went outside to smoke a cigarette. And by the time you came back in, he was leaving. But he went back to Shon, and he still has the 3 felonies that I already publicly said on my YouTube channel. How to get rid of them. And I know that the court knows because they asked him for permission to keep those felonies. Let's hear him talk about it when he was talking to me on Tuesday.
But those, they pretty much dismissed everything. They had those 3 felonies left. They kicked them down the road. They asked me if I was okay kicking them down the road for her safety, her mental health, or whatever. I was like, dude, you ain't got shit. He's like, well, it would suffice the court. It'd suffice her. Are you okay? I was like, fine, man, whatever. Kick it down the road, and then everything else, they pretty much just quit fucking with me on. I still pay child support. I didn't take the class. All I did was pay for it, which is all they want me to do.
And they let that count?
Yeah.
They were like, we got our money, that's it.
That's it. I still hadn't taken it. I don't know, man. It's hard times. I'm going to lean on what I know, and that's my faith. But other than that, right now, I got some peace, so I'm pretty happy about that. How about you? What's been going on with you?
Nothing much, man. Just
Shaman said y'all broke up or whatever. Y'all had a falling out, or everybody did, or something.
Something like that.
Well, I hate that. Y'all known each other a long time.
Yeah. And so, but, you know, just keeping up doing what I'm doing. Working with this other gentleman on a contract violation. Yeah, because that's what I do. I work with people and help them out with court. I don't just tell them how it's their fault and how wonderful I am. I am God. I told Kemp, he agrees with me because I talked him into it. And sorry, Kemp, for kind of calling you out. I didn't exactly mean to do that. You know, I've been trying to keep this out of the public for fear about how the court may treat you after they realize I'm not in your corner anymore. But because of JJ and Shon talking crap, I guess I gotta tell everybody what's actually going on. Sorry, man. But yeah, I'm actually still helping people. And let me tell you, there's a private contract that the court is wishing to just ignore. They're basically saying that y'all don't have the right to private contract anymore. When 2 people decide amongst themselves the court isn't going to respect anymore, and y'all don't see how scary this is?
You know, the further you go from the foundation, the further you skew from where you're supposed to be.
Well, you know, I
so
can't.
just
right or wrong?
Go ahead. And maybe you could.
Well, here's what I want to state. I think this needs stated.
Yep.
I want to state this publicly, okay?
Go ahead. But, you know, I mean,
So-
Hey,
My line was drawn over some dogs. I mean,
Can I give you something to think about?
Go ahead, Sean. Go ahead.
Think about.
Go ahead, Sean.
JJ, your line was drawn over some dogs, and you're just letting Sean walk all over you on your show like this. Oh, I guess it's y'all's show. Because Shon is Sean, he's so great, he's got all the answers for us. So we'll just let him walk all over us and treat us like crap. No less than 3 times apiece did he completely interrupt you and JD, each. 1 or 2 times at the same time. That's kind of a remarkable feat. And he rudely interrupts Tara at least once. And this is just a small part of the show. I still have a bunch of notes to choose from. I'm just trying to keep this time down. And this is who y'all choose to follow. At the end of the world, Sean might tell us how to fix everything. Maybe, if he had any answers.
If nobody shows up for the war, there can't be one. So if we can just figure out the right way to do that together, it's just a small thing. You know, we can have some success. I think we could turn it around still. It doesn't have to be bad, right?
I think the duplicity thing is where the danger is caused, where people are trying to go back in there and, like the people who
are duplicitous, like giving Sean a platform and then kicking the people who really know law out. Sean's right. If nobody showed up for the war, there wouldn't be one. And you know what? If people didn't show up for y'all's show, if the audience didn't show up, you wouldn't have one. If people decided, hey, these guys are teaching bad law. If people stood up together and decided, hey, these guys are teaching bad law, and they just didn't show up, yep, y'all wouldn't have a show. And let me tell you something about making a difference. JJ, JD, Christine, Lisa, Mia, everybody who participated over the summer, Joni, Nika, Rebecca Sano, all of y'all, we were making a difference over the summer. We were joining together, we were sticking together, and we were making a difference. We got Kemp out of jail a day early, which is quite a feat. Look at what we accomplished together. That's how you make a difference. You want to know how you don't make a difference? You don't go and divide the entire group. That's what you don't do. It's not going to work out well that way. It's just not. So JD, yes, the thing that is stopping us from making a big difference, from really, really moving forward, is duplicitous people. I agree with you 100%. 100.
That's the energy system that created this universe, and the law is encoded in the structure of the system from the very beginning, and we can't change it.
Yep.
So, however it's like a painting. However we like to express how we think it looks. We're looking at the same picture here. We're all in this same thing together. This world and this universe.
What I've noticed, it's systematic every time. Every time I see somebody lose a court or get tanked or something, generally speaking, it's either poor decisions or duplicity. Oh, I'm sorry. We have a horrible delay.
It's all right. It's
I
like
don't know
2
what's
seconds.
going on. I hate
it's 2 seconds.
I don't mean to walk over you.
It's systematic. It's systematic. Every time Sean interrupts you, it's systematic. This is why we're never going to win. Is because we keep fighting amongst each other. There's no unity. Because everybody who's following your group is effectively saying through their actions that they would rather have an administrative court, that they would rather have administrative processes than actually take responsibility and vote somebody out of the club, out of the playground. They would rather other people administrate all those decisions for them and not have any rights. That's where this line of thinking is, because I held a court. It was public. Shon had the chance to show up, defend himself. He didn't. There was a verdict made. And then, in some administrative process that very few people were a part of, few people decided to get rid of me and a bunch of other people in the group who actually do stuff, so that they could go off on their own. And everybody who's following that, I just hope you recognize that you, in your own life, are asking for an administrative system. You're asking for it. You wish for it to happen. Tara, you were even at the trial for Shon. You listened to it. You wouldn't participate. That's fine. I bet you didn't have any problems with them kicking me and Joni off and all the other people they kicked off. So you don't have a problem with that, but you have a problem with actual law, and then you call me the tyrant and the dictator. Really? You'll laugh at the guy who talks about giving away his child before his car? And let me tell you something. I like your questions. They're really good questions. Shon didn't really have an answer for you. Here's the answer. We stick together. Because just like over the summer, we actually made a difference. What difference is this making? And the thing that perplexes me the most is the people who would have the most to benefit out of Joni and I talking about we're going to respect everybody seems to be the people fighting us the most. Christine talking about how I'm not really teaching law. Christine berating freaking Joni. Tara calling me a dictator. Rebecca Say No talks about how I'm doing this awful thing by exposing the truth. I think it's just insane. While we're talking about this duplicity, let me just say this. Look, Don Ash is probably laughing his behind off watching this right now, but I can tell you this. If Shon Mann ever went before his court, Don would absolutely run all over him because he's duplicitous. Because he would say, whoa, you're not going to try and bring John's law up in here after you violated it against him, are you? You're not going to try and bring that stuff before me. When I know what's really going on. And this is the problem. You see, because if you follow Shon's logic and you think it's okay that people call each other dumbasses because of their beliefs and what they think about, then you're perfectly okay with this two-party state of Republicans versus Democrat. Because the Democrats feel like it's okay to demoralize, dehumanize the Republicans, and the Republicans think it's okay to dehumanize the Democrats. This is what you're left with. Anyways, in leaving, let's talk about the Bible. This comes from Mark 3:23 down. How can Satan cast out Satan? And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand, but hath an end. No man can enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he will first bind the strong man, and then he will spoil his house. Sounds familiar? Verily I say unto you, all sins shall be forgiven unto the sons of men, and blasphemies wherein soever they shall blaspheme. But he that blaspheme against the Holy Ghost hath never forgiveness, but is in danger of eternal damnation. He who blaspheme against the Holy Ghost. Well, let's see here. To arrogate the prerogatives of God's law. That's blaspheme. To arrogate the prerogatives of God. Okay? And when you arrogate the prerogatives of God's law, you're arrogating the prerogatives of God, the Holy Spirit itself. It's the only unforgivable sin. Anyways, with that, thank you for watching. We really appreciate everybody who shows up and gives us an audience to keep on performing this. And I hope everybody understands that right now I'm not necessarily in the mood to teach people or let audios go or show people how court actually works, because it seems like every time I do this with people, every time I get kind of a group of people together, and I feel like I'm making progress, something comes along and wrecks it like a wrecking ball named Shon. And it just makes me not wish to show anybody anything anymore. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm still thinking about it. But after this, I'm going to play a little over an hour of the last time I was on JJ and JD's show, because I actually like them. And you can see this horrible attack I did on Shon by telling people we're going to respect people and uphold law for 2 hours a week on my show. Hope you enjoy. One world, love, and peace.
Watch how masterful Satan is. Because if there's something to lose, drop, spill, break, or mutilate, I will do that every time.
You know, I didn't understand it. Anyways, JJ put up in the chat that Carbon has a law question, and this is a law show.
Cabron. Cabron.
Hello?
Cabron there. I don't
Is
think
that-
it's, let me unmute him. He's raising his hand. I don't know how to unmute him. Can you do that, JJ?
I don't know how to unmute
No,
him.
he has to unmute himself. Carvin, if you would hit the microphone and unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Sure can.
We can hear you now.
All right. Hey guys, thanks so much for doing this, and just being open and available like this. My question is, I was recently, my car was parked on the road. A road grader came along, smashed it, totaled it, totally smashed. The insurance company wants to just tell me that they have no liability. So they just say, "Oh, get out of here." So I have to file a claim in small claims court, and I'm wondering what I need to go about that as a man versus a legal person.
And small claims court?
Right.
What is your evidence?
Well, I have an affidavit of my own. I have
A declaration of your own?
Declaration?
Yes, sir.
Rather than an affidavit?
If you wish to go at it a common law. Yes, sir.
Okay. Cool. And then I have I have a police report and photos, and also I have from the auto body shop that made the quote as to what the damage would be. So there's all my evidence, the recording of the event, photos of that, and the outcome.
Okay. You have the police report, and I'm guessing because you're like, this happened by one of those street sweeper type things, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's a more of a road grader. It was on a dirt road that this happened, and they come through. There was snow on the ground. The road grader was acting as a snowplow.
Okay, so road grader. Now, does the police report have the other driver's information on it?
Yes.
Okay. And does the police report have the police officer's name on it who wrote it?
Yes.
Okay. And does the police officer still work as a police officer?
Yes, and the road grader driver is still working as a road grader driver.
Yeah, well, you don't wish to know who for this, you do not wish to care about the road grader driver right now. Here's what I would do, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If I were you, and this is not legal advice, I'm just answering the question that you have presented before myself as I see it right now in law, as I understand it right now. Just a disclaimer, no legal advice.
Mm-hmm.
How much is it actually worth?
Well, I paid $4,000 for the car, and this happened a month after I bought it.
Okay, what's the top amount for small claims court?
I don't know. I imagine it'd be something like 10,000.
Where are you?
I'm in rural Colorado.
Rural Colorado. Okay, yeah, I would say probably somewhere around 10,000. And the road grader, their insurance won't take care of it.
No, yeah, there's some Colorado Governmental Immunity Act that they referenced me to. Yeah, right.
That just reminded me of a FedBook post I saw this week, and it said, somebody's getting the vaccine, and it's like, will this give immunity? And they go, yeah, to the vaccine company.
Right.
Anyways, okay, so here's what I would do. I would write to the individual who actually hit your car. So consciousness says max in Colorado is 7,500. That's actually what it's here is in South Carolina. In North Carolina, it's 10,000. And it really doesn't matter, because again, if you go to small claims courts, like if you go into the state court, and I'm just going to go ahead and tell you because I've done this, they're going to give you a hard time. Like it's going to be a hassle. You are going to have to fight these people to do their job. And in the end, they still might not do it. But I have seen it done. Okay. So
I have to try.
Right. So what I would do is I would write to the gentleman who was actually responsible, and I would say, hey, my property is damaged. You have been found to be the responsible party. So upon information and belief, I believe you are the responsible party. Do you wish to work this out in some kind of way? Please get back to me within 3 weeks or something. And give them an extra week or two. Letters can get lost in the mail, things happen, whatever. But my guess is that they probably will not respond. Right. And then you say, all right, hey, time 2. What do you wish to do? And now you're on the clock, because now I'm kind of going way out of my way to make this right. You're not making it easy for me after you have caused harm, injury, and loss. And put all of this stuff in your own words, please. Don't
Oh, yeah, of course.
Try and take what I'm saying.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, now I'm going to have to charge you for the inconvenience of doing this. And I would get them right around the 7,500 mark,
Right.
like $74.99. And if I were you, I would just do this for fun. And I'm going to tell you why here in just a second. And then I would go down. I would get in touch with the man acting as a policy enforcer who wrote the report that happened, and see what it would take for him to be down there as a third-party impartial witness to put facts upon the record of the courts, and then go down there with the officer. And they're supposed to do this for you because, they're supposed to be law enforcement, but they've kind of forgotten that side of the job. And they don't do this unless they care to, which basically means they don't do anything that the state legislature doesn't tell them to. But this is the way it's supposed to work. They're supposed to be the third-party impartial witness to what happened. It's like, yep, I got a call to go show up. I went there. I saw his car totaled, and that guy said he had hit it. I didn't have any reason to not believe him. Yes, I filled out the police report because I don't know if you could actually say, and for 100% fact, you cannot say that you created that document. So without the officer's testimony, there's no way to put that fact or establish that fact upon the record of the court. And then I would lay your own testimony down. That is a declaration that is to be performed and not an affidavit to be filed. That is very, very important if you wish to know the difference between law and legal land of fictitious allegations that may or may not be true. And then it's game on, okay? And you better know what you're doing. Straight up. And if they run over you in the small claims court, that's actually your court, if you understand how to hold it, then I would get in touch with the high clerk. They are going to tell you that they do not have jurisdiction over the small claims court. And it's like, great. I was just expecting the judicial officer down there to act in good faith. You do have jurisdiction over an actual court of law, correct? And it's going to be almost impossible, if you don't really know your stuff, to get them to answer to you correct. But if you go and watch my channel, you can tell I have done it because I put the documentation up on my channel. In fact, I know for a fact that I think it's on the one where I'm talking about the jury with Gus Breton, because I'm like, he's saying I'm withholding this information from you. Whoever saw a document like this before, ever, anywhere, from any guru, ever, where a high clerk is saying we absolutely 100% have a court of law. But here's how you file in the civil law system.
Huh.
It is hilarious. And when you get the high clerk to say that in writing, and you don't necessarily have to have them say that in writing, most of the time I have just talked to them and explained what their job was and what everybody's job was in great detail. I've even had a high clerk, and Oracle can actually verify this for you. I've even had a high clerk tell me that I knew their job better than they did. Okay? And at that point, they're not going to mess with you at all because the individual works for the state and because they are insured by the state while they are working in their state person. They are going to know 100% what they are looking at, and they will probably just talk to you if you make it that far. Okay? But at the same time, do not be guaranteed, because if I could just get a court of law, I could go execute millions of dollars worth of judgments right now.
Yeah. So it's a matter of not only not simply going and filing with their court, but literally making the court happen.
Well, I mean, here's the problem and the issue is that there is literally no way for you to make the court happen. You got a bunch of people with guns to take over the town and enforce a court of law? Probably not.
No.
Exactly. So you can't make the court happen. Okay? And for the most part, people in society only care about themselves. And for some crazy reason, for the first time in a really long time, but all of the founding fathers wrote about this 100%, is that when your society gets to this level of lawlessness, like the people are uneducated, and that's how they could not hold the civil government that was created for them before. And when the government goes after, like when the government criminalizes exposing crimes, you can be pretty certain you are being ruled by criminals. And I have literally been investigated by the FBI for my Facebook channel, which literally exposes 35 or 33, I don't remember, it is somewhere in the 30s, but 30 attorneys committing a criminal conspiracy on a Zoom chat, on video, and then a judicial officer talking about writing to people in the bar association and making this all disappear, and now it's all disappeared, and the FBI cannot investigate them, but can investigate me because of a black X that I did not put there over a judicial officer's face. And that's where we're at in society right now. Okay? And unless we all learn how to love one another, because, 200 years ago, 150 years ago, even in a large way, kind of 50 years ago, people in society kind of knew that there was a certain line you did not allow the government to cross, because it's kind of like if you go and watch the video I did about, what was her name? Sierra, okay, where the state steals the children, they literally kick in her door with no warrant and then make up a search warrant later and steal her children to hold over her head Basically so that they can get away with everything that they had just done. And if people would have seen that 75 years ago, everybody would have been up in arms down at the courthouse because everybody would have understood, well, if they can just do it to her, they can do it to me. And if you go watch one of the last videos I put out about Valerie Owenby, who really, like, the district attorney who got removed from office for acting as an accessory after the fact to a man who raped her for 7 years, and they won't allow her access to a court of law to issue a warrant for facts that already appear upon their record way beyond probable cause. And if they will not uphold the law for a woman who was raped for 7 years, because instead of, actually upholding the law and issuing a warrant, they would rather give the accessory after the fact another job as a North Carolina attorney in a different county, and nobody is up in arms, and everybody thinks it won't happen to them, but literally, if they did it to her over a situation like that, just tell me a situation where they're going to uphold the law for you.
So how can
without you paying an attorney tens of thousands of dollars and hoping you overpaid the next one across the table and then getting lucky all at the same time? Maybe you will find a privilege somewhere in the courtroom. I've actually seen it happen a lot in my younger days.
And so, do you have any recommended reading where I may be able to learn to speak up for myself? Because I mean, as much as I hate to say it, I don't have a lot of faith that anyone ever would come up in arms on my behalf. And if I were to ever be in such a situation, I would need to speak up for myself. Where can I learn about what to read? Is it only case law? What do we have?
Well, you would find it necessary and required to speak up for yourself if you found yourself in that position. And it's not so much as to what to read. It's like a lot of people say, JC, what do I need to punch into Google to learn the stuff that you know? And I'm like, you can't.
So do we go to major cities, to the big libraries, and find the law books? Is that the only place to find this info?
Well, it's like, okay, so I was having a conversation about this afternoon. Absolutely every single courthouse all across America, except for your magistrate or small claims courts, they have to have a law library. Consciousness, they have to allow you access to a law library, even with the lockdown. And most of the time, what the law library consists of these days in most places is a subscription to Westlaw on the computer, and that's incredibly resourceful, especially if you actually know how to navigate it and how to work and look up case law. Okay. But if you don't, it's not incredibly helpful, and you wish to go to corpus juris secundum, and typically those are held in book forms, And I have a law library right downtown, and that is a set of books that they have not gotten rid of. But I cried, absolutely cried, when they got rid of their set of terms and phrases, which was like an entire section that you will see in the pictures of the law library that I did in one of the first like 13 videos, where I'm talking about why attorneys do not know this stuff and how big the law library is. And terms and phrases were legal terms and phrases. And it's not the terms that interested me so much. It was the phrases like incident to manner that, if you actually understand it and how to use it, is incredibly powerful.
Manner as in how you conduct yourself, like not besides the actual words you speak, but just your demeanor.
Man, you're asking something that's pretty difficult right now, so you gotta give me a second to answer that question. Okay. Okay. Manor, noun, 1828 dictionary. The land belonging to a lord or a nobleman, or so much land as a lord or great personage formerly kept in his own hands for the use and substance of his family. In these days, a manor rather signifies the jurisdiction and royalty incorporeal than the land or site. For a man may have a manor in gross, as the law terms it, that is the right and interest of a court baron, with the prerequisites thereto belonging. And if you can understand that without going down to a law library and looking everything up in words and phrases and come back here and explain it to me, I will give you $5,000 I don't have. That's what a manor is.
Okay.
Okay. And I got that from a court baron. Do you know what a court baron is?
A court baron?
Yeah.
No, I've never heard that.
Okay, so a court baron is a baron's court. Who would have thought? A court incident to a manor. You see, incident to a manor. Incident to manor. You probably heard me say that the first time before you asked what the word manor meant. And that's just kind of like just a few of my incredibly buried, well-kept secrets. And here it is, everybody. Because if we don't get together, nobody will ever see it be used again. And I am here to tell you firsthand, I have seen it. It is not a magical unicorn. When you do the things that we talk about on this show, because even though I can almost guarantee you, and I'm not going to guarantee you because people have surprised me, and every now and then you see somebody with an actual conscience and you see the illumination draw through and the illumination slip away. Okay? So I'm not going to say you can't see it. All right? I'm just saying it's incredibly, incredibly rare. And we are so... It's basically already gone. Okay? But at the same time, when they are coming after you and they are attacking you and you use law, for the most part, they will not execute their attack if you perform law correctly. And that's what I'm kind of saying with this not being a magical unicorn. Okay? Like if you go and look at what happened to Philip Kemp, and you can explain to me why the judge who locked him up for 30 days for taking his kids camping also wrote an order to let him out like 2 weeks early, right before Father's Day, without explaining, and this is with nobody moving the court except for the fact that Philip Kemp sent in a writ of habeas corpus to the Supreme Court of Tennessee. If you can explain why Don Ash made the decisions he made without that happening and without the ideas behind it and without this magical unicorn that the legal society likes to call you sovereign citizenness, common law, because you actually believe somewhere that you had rights, because even when you were growing up in their school systems and their educational systems, they taught you at some point in time that you had either inalienable or unalienable rights. Okay, but if you still hold that belief, then you're kind of crazy, because there are 3 elements that I have defined as a slave or a Jew in Nazi Germany. And the first element is that you do not have the right to private property. If somebody who works for the state can drive past your property and destroy it, and there is absolutely no liability because the legislature says that they have immunity, then I guess you don't actually have the right to private property. Okay? If somebody can rape you for 7 years and you cannot go swear out a warrant for them, not only do you not have the right to private property, you do not have the right to your private body. Okay? If the government can just go and jab you with a needle, which they're talking about maybe doing somewhere, sometime, then you do not have the right to your private body. You do not have a private right to your own body. Okay, so private property is kind of out the window. Like if the state can come by and kick in your door with no search warrant and then make one up and take your offspring that you created, that the Supreme Court has said time and time again is more sacred than your right to property, then you don't have any right to private property. Okay, now the next element that I see for a slave, okay, is, or a Jew in Nazi Germany, is that a state official, an overseer, an officer can kill you with absolutely no repercussions. It's like in law, it didn't even happen. Then you are a slave because you have absolutely no right to a access of law. Okay. The third one, right? So private property, killing. What was the third one? Oh, the third one is if someone else can administrate your family without your consent and have absolutely no complaint and no facts upon the record, you know, like ripping children away from their parents and selling them to somebody else, okay, like CPS, DSS, the Family Safes Act that incentivizes states to do this to people, then you are a slave. And all of these things are going on in society right now, everywhere. And people are like, freedom fries.
And that's
Screw the
verified.
French.
Wearing their American flag T-shirts. So, just for the sake of not feeling too hopeless, God, I wish I had like a well-formed question to respond to that. I mean,
Well, I think your first question was pretty well formed. I think that answer was almost immaculate.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
Well, just keep
almost.
Cabron, just keep coming back on the show and start hanging out in the chat room there, and there's more people looking into all this stuff and trying to figure it out. So hang around.
We're always on standby on the chat. And just don't be discouraged. JC's nickname on the street is Soul Crusher the Shill. Esquire.
Unless I'm on the call with Yeshua, and then it's Shill.
Yep.
Because surprise, the government lies. Shillster.
Shilly Shillerton.
So, we ran over by about 35 minutes so far. Are we good to wrap it up for tonight? Because I have some weather moving in, and being on satellite,
We
I may...
are not quite yet. Hey, wait just a second. Oracle, are you there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, Oracle and Christine.
Yes,
Are you there?
I am.
And Consciousness, are you there? Consciousness, is Consciousness here?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. Yep.
Okay, it looks like Nika has gone. Mia is here. I know I saw Grace here earlier, so hopefully somebody will send this to her with the big announcement. Mystic Way. Anyways, Grace is still here. Awesome. So, and I really hope and wish that somebody reaches out to Tara, because here is the big announcement. On the Wednesday show, it will be up to us to create and enforce amongst ourselves, because we wish to be self-governing. So we must self-regulate a very safe space where everybody feels safe to speak. And nobody allows anyone else to violate the non-aggression principle. And for anybody who did not understand or does not understand what the non-aggression principle is, it basically means you do not have the right to attack somebody, ever. Your only right is to self-defense. And in the safe space that we wish to create, honestly, it should not just be you defending yourself. It should be people who know law standing with you. And honestly, it is up to us to enforce the law. And if you cannot get down with this idea, then you probably should not be on the Wednesday show. That's the big announcement.
Woo woo. Celebrate tonight. What does that song? Come on.
I don't know, but hey, JJ, I got the most perfect song for going out with.
Okay.
The Nights by what is his name? But before we do that, I also wish to hear from Oracle, because Oracle and I have been talking about how much we kind of miss JJ, your and Christine's interactions. Like when Oracle first heard y'all's show that y'all did together, like she was so moved and so touched by it that she immediately got in touch with me and asked me if I would, host a show where she was interviewing you, and somehow it's like we all keep talking about changing the format, doing this, and, a lot of the ideas that I've heard this past year have been centered around trying to attract more women and get more women as actual kind of moderators and real voices on this show. And so, anyways, this is the only way we kind of thought of to try to produce this to happen. And with that being said, I love consciousness, your woo woo, toot toot, and everybody's kind of excitement. With that being said, I wish to kind of open the floor for anybody to express themselves or whatever anyone wishes to say or communicate.
So does that mean that a hand needs to be held up for when still? Is that still the rule? A genuine question.
Okay, so here is the actual law. The actual law is non-aggression principle. Okay, and the actual rule is the rule of law. And what I have found works the best is whether you raise your hand. Like raising your hand is probably a really, really good way of getting somebody's attention who's watching the board. Like if I am in the middle of a really long kind of rant, and you don't wish to interrupt because I'm not saying something that you fundamentally have to have cleared up before I continue to the next idea, then a hand is probably a very polite way to say, hey, I have something to say. But honestly, it's like, what do we talk about? Natural law. What is natural law? It's the fact that law is natural. How does this work? Naturally. Why? Because it's natural law. So we should just ride the wave, baby. My opinion.
So why did it go to the
Well,
hand
it was also
holding
to avoid.
or the hand raising?
It was also to avoid people talking over one another.
And while I've been running the show, that's always been common courtesy. And I've been doing the admin things on the Wednesday show, and the Sunday show is mine, Christine's and JD's, and Monarch's and Shon's. I mean, there are several co-hosts, and we tend to talk over each other from time to time as well. So, if you're not one of the co-hosts that are discussing a topic, it's polite and common courtesy to raise your hand so that we can acknowledge you, and then all of us can interact and give someone else a fair opportunity to make their statement or pose their question.
Well, as a newcomer, I didn't really understand the setup of this, so I didn't understand when you guys came on Telegram chat the other day. I was so stoked because it felt more inclusive to me, whereas this space thus far has felt like, okay, I'm just the viewer, the listener, and I'm not a part of it. Although I felt differently today, but it's all good, and I take ownership for my feelings, and it's not at all pointing at you guys. It's just probably my stuff, but it hasn't felt that inclusive.
Well, hey, you know what? That might not be 100% true, because one of the reasons we're kind of doing this is because other people who have kind of come and gone, which is why I really hope and wish that somebody sends this to Tara and she hears it, because she's
and
one
any
of
other
those.
woman that would be interested in this.
Yeah, but she's kind of one of those that has come and gone, and on some level, I believe, I don't know, but on some level, I believe even though she was kind of in, she might have felt a little out too. And I don't know. We've never actually talked about it. I try and communicate with her, and she communicated with me, I think, the last time I sent the video, and kind of said a couple of things that let me know that she still kind of follows, and she's busy. And I sent her a message back saying that I missed her questions, because I kind of talked about that with JJ on Sunday when he was talking about kind of moving forward and how to structure the show and what was going to go on. So, but this is something that we have been thinking for a long time. And Oracle, I'm sorry if I interrupted you.
Yeah, so let me just kind of clarify a little bit more on that. I started maybe almost 4 years ago when it was on a different platform with other moderators, and it's kind of morphed into various things. And so, but the beginning of my involvement, I always said to John that we really do, we must have women on get involved more in common law and be able to participate in the program. And so one of the things that I thought was critically important is showing to John that men and women communicate very differently. And you can't treat a woman like a man, just like you can't, treat a man like a girlfriend, kind of thing. And there are different ways of communicating that both men and women are so different about, but needs to be inclusive. And so I really had been talking to John about how we can include more women and their questions and their opinions and their ideas. And one of the things that I find to be, I think, challenging in this movement is, I think that for men, and I sure don't want to talk for men, but just my short experience of being involved in this particular tribe is there seems to be a challenge in terms of having women come on board when men are involved, their partners or wives or however you want to put it. And it was always curious to me how challenging that must be to have a partner that you can be on board with. And there's various reasons why that is or isn't happening, and you could certainly say the same conversely, but I see, for me, my experience has been there's been more men in this movement. And so if we want to be able to, I think the joining of the two would make it much more well-rounded. And so that's part of, I guess, what today is also about, is to encourage more women to participate, to be able to ask questions, to be able to send in whatever, text, emails, if you have an idea for a show, if there's something that even upset you on the show, to feel this should be a safe place to be able to express that, either one-on-one or even publicly. It's always good to go to your brother or sister first and talk to them first, and then, but I think that it's important to make it a safe place. When I heard one of the early shows that JJ and Christine were doing, I was really, I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the interaction between the two of them. I really enjoyed Christine's opinion, and the way she worded it so differently than JJ did. And I just thought it was a great example of being able to have that kind of interaction. And, we'd like to see that more on this particular show. So I hope that clarifies a little bit.
It does. Thank you.
It does to me. It sounds amazing. And thank you for doing that to everyone or whatever, whoever's a part of it. Thank you. So there's no reason to go into the past, but thank you so much. I'm looking forward to that.
Christine had something that she was trying to respond, and I was still muted, so.
I was just saying thank you for clarifying that and for the lovely comments that you made. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just so we're all clear, I don't get offended. So anybody that feels like calling me a dumbass, I'll accept it as your opinion, and we can move on. So I'm good with it.
Well, hey, fuck you then.
I love you too, Monarch.
That was me, just kidding.
That wasn't me yet.
Oh, okay. Well, love you too, Carmen.
And I'd like to just put it out there that if any of the women feel there's an issue, a hiccup, or anything that's discouraging, I hope you feel comfortable in letting me know privately or not. And because I've experienced myself how JJ and JD's unfunny jokes can destroy the desire. So let me know, and I'll squash that.
Thank you. I'm sure that was genuine.
And by Monarch's,
yeah, I just don't know if we can help people grow intuition, but we're gonna try.
and by Monarch's suggestion earlier, I moved to elect Kumo as the head of women's affairs.
I think that might have been a little inappropriate, man.
Of course you do.
It's all in lighthearted
So,
fun.
but you know, one thing again, it's like it's not just whether you are okay with being called a dumbass or not. It's the fact that this should be family friendly. Parents should be able to listen at this at their home while they're cooking dinner and not have headsets on and be afraid to allow their children to listen to it because they don't know what's about to come on next.
Agreed.
And you know that's one of the big issues for some people with you know, just randomly calling people a dumbass or an asshole, you know, or even just cussing in general. You know, like the people who have talked to me off of the call, especially in any time I have found myself feeling emotional, they know that I fucking cuss. Now, I don't necessarily do it on the show because kind of like consciousness was talking about with how you are raised, the fundamental principles that you are raised with. It's like I tell Malcolm, you cannot be a man without manners. He got the responsibility badge the other day. You know, they don't give many of those out. It's kind of funny when he got it. I was like, so did you get that because you were so responsible or because they're saying you need more responsibility and they're just giving you a reminder? You know? So, but it's like, fundamentally, my parents would tell me, you know, the only people who cuss all the time are the people who are so unintelligent that they can't find other words to say besides cuss words. And I know that that's not true, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know who's listening. I don't know where they're coming from. I don't know what kind of day they've had. I don't know how young they are, how old they are, this, that, or the other. And it's like, why not just hold the principle? You know? I mean, what's the worst that could happen? I express myself without saying F or A or B all the time. You know, like what's the worst that could happen? And if I cannot express myself without doing those things, then maybe I should think about how I express myself. You know, kind of like JJ on Sunday night after the call. It's like I was being incredibly honest, and I'm going to say it here now. And what I used to do, and with how big I got and how young I was, and the kind of money I was making, and the kind of power I wielded, I let my ego get away from me and control me in a very disturbing way that did not come to light to me until years after I'd quit. And that is very, very for real. And that is how I know that some of the people who were around me who said they were my friends weren't really my friends, because they didn't tell me how out of line I was. You know, so if anybody ever sees me being out of line, if anybody ever sees me having such a big ego or such a big head, and I get it, it's like Yeshua calls JC a shill. You know, like I have this personality that naturally, when I was like 12 years old and had, you know, a best friend, his family, like his parents would be like, we're going to have to widen the doorway to get your head through, John. You know, so that's just kind of naturally part of my personality. But if you see it in any type of destructive way as a friend, out of respect to me, please bring it to me. I wish to know. You know, even if you think it's going to hurt my feelings and hurt my emotions or whatever, please find some way, come up with some way to bring it to me and talk about it.
I just to add a little bit on that, I never had a chance to talk about part B of when I talked about, you know, if someone inappropriately touches you or you ask them to let go of you. And that's a whole different issue I won't get into, because those are abuse issues. And when someone allows that to happen, they're giving consent. But I certainly agree with what you said about that, and John, and that is there are various reasons why people consent to that, and they don't even know they're consenting. There's fear, there's trauma, there's previous abuse. So just moving forward into right now, it's not only the ego that a lot of people, you know, are a super inflated ego of themselves. It's also people act out of a lot of woundedness. And so in order to make this a safer platform, I think it's incredibly important, as I said earlier, not to treat women like one of the guys, and not to treat, you know, vice versa. That it's important that we feel safe, because when we talk about triggers, however you want to interpret the triggers are, and I certainly agree more with what you were saying, consciousness, about that, because I deal all the time with people who have triggers, PTSD symptoms, and that sort of thing, is that the way that we speak to somebody is very important, because not only how we physically can touch them or we're in their space, but what we say can start a trigger. And we certainly don't want that to be a negative trigger, and then people have a negative view of how we're handling, or thinking the only way that we talk or do it in this tribe is, you know, we all have to be similar. I think the thing that brings all of us together similarly is do no harm. And we don't want to be governed by someone else telling us to take a jab or not a jab, but we also want to treat each other with dignity, honor, and respect. And I know that depending on how wounded we are or how healthy we are, that can certainly be very different between all of us. But the ground rules, as John was saying, is, you know, to be able to have a safe place where everyone feels safe, and doesn't get offended or triggered, and if they do, that we should be able to express that to each other and ask those questions and confront one another in love.
I mean, to have a safe space that you all are speaking about in a relationship, to me, this is everything is a relationship. And I'm so excited. Like, it's such an amazing opportunity. It's just, I can't even articulate it right now because I'm so tired. Usually I'm in bed, like, it's early, but anyway, thank you. And just thank you so much for, again, I don't know who's in charge of these rooms yet or who's what, the hierarchy, I have no idea. But thank you for putting in the time and the effort and talking amongst yourselves and offering it to us. That's all.
And I thank you, Consciousness, for bringing it back up, because there was something that was said a little earlier I meant to touch on, and that is this safe space that I wish to create. It should not have a hierarchy. Okay. There should not be. It's kind of like there's a great saying about law, and this is fundamentally a American jurisprudence. Okay, and that is, there is no man above the law, and there is no man below the law. Okay, and then a fundamental principle philosophy is that true nobility does not come from being superior to your fellow man. True nobility comes from being superior to your former self. Okay, and that's what this space is about. It's about, we all have our personality, and we wish to share our personality because we know the dangers of feeling alone in such a world like this. And knowing those dangers is what has brought us fundamentally all together. And to run away from those dangers only to recreate them with a hierarchy of people who are in control telling others what to do or how to behave would be absolutely no different than what the government does, which is why I'm calling upon this to be self-regulating, to where people don't have to defend themselves because everybody else knows the difference between right and wrong, and the jury stands up for what is right. And so that the behavior that is wrong just kind of goes away naturally, and we can all be equal before the eyes of the Creator, whatever that may be. You know, whatever religion, belief, idea, energy, science, consciousness, logos, God, church, temple, present, now, whatever it might be, because the truth is that none of us know, and none of us can judge each other except for that can judge us. That's just my belief.
Amazing. 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 It's definitely
Hello? The consciousness, did we lose you?
A few times did not feel that way.
Hey,
for
consciousness, we kind of lost you for a second. Could you? Hello?
So I'm just glad to hear it. Could you hear me right now?
We can now, but we lost you for a second, kind of after I quit speaking.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Hello?
Hello?
I was just saying, hello? Can you hear me?
Hello? Yeah, we can hear you now, but we couldn't hear you, like, kind of after I quit speaking. It was choppy, really, really bad for a minute.
That's all right.
Well, please, what did you wish to say? I'm on the edge of my seat here.
Wait, can you hear me now?
Yes, you have Verizon.
Okay. I was just going to say it hasn't felt like that a few times, and I was about to give up. And I'm just saying I'm not fishing for anything. I'm just saying that I'm grateful to you, which I've already thanked you all, and I'm grateful to myself that I came back and gave it another shot. So good.
Well, I'm grateful to you for coming back and giving it another shot, and hopefully other people who have not been a part of or joined this space for a long time will come back and give it another shot, because I've kind of seen a fair amount of people, with some of them that I haven't seen in a while, some of them that I've talked to kind of recently about different ideas that we're still working on. I mean, this is just kind of the start of something that I have been planning and putting together with the help of everybody around me for years. So be prepared, because whatever created me slapped me in the face when I was 17 and told me I was going to do it.
Yeah, I kind of relate to that. I like that sentiment because I feel like I was like all throughout public school, all throughout my childhood and my adolescence. I always knew it's like, man, this is just all so wrong. It just was so clear to me all the time, and only these days lately starting to even get a whiff of what common law is and what our rights are, and just wanting to keep that flame alive. And so it's really inspiring to see a group like this come together. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and it's a process. I mean, learning all this is it's kind of hard. You know, they say that it takes 3 times to be able to hear something before you even decide to want to accept it. And it takes a while to learn this because you have to let go of a lot of the old thinking that we have all been, taught in school, in society, in the news, and to be able to embrace this. And a lot of times when you hear it, I know for me, when I first heard it, it was like, it felt good inside. It made sense even though I couldn't explain it at the time. I just knew that it was internally it was right. And so it takes a while to learn it, and it's important that this is a safe place to learn, to be able to go over it as many times as needed before it kind of sinks in, to not feel that you're stupid or you're not that smart. I mean, that's what we're trying to get rid of, is any of even the self-incriminating and the self-judgments that we make. We want to be able to help get rid of that internal dialogue that can sometimes be so negative and stop the growth process. I mean, there's the desire to want to do that, but a lot of times we've been so negatively programmed from society, family, or even ourselves that can be a hindrance to learning and to embracing some new things. So that's why another reason why we're saying this is kind of a safe place, that we're not going to, I don't believe we should call anybody names. We should be able to, we're all at a learning place in different place, Everyone is still in what I knew a year ago is totally different than what I know today, what I knew a month ago. And so forever learning is essential, and I always like to be teaching someone and be learning at the same time, and that way I'm putting into practice what I've been taught, so that I can teach it, and then even if I'm fumbling my way through it. And that's actually why I really loved hearing JJ and Christine when they first started their show, is they made it clear we don't have all the answers, and it was so awesome, the humility and the honesty about that, And that's why I told John it was important that we interview them and help to be able to, be a spark to what they're doing, a platform of success for what they're doing, what everybody else is doing too in their own way, with JD and others who've got their own Telegram groups to keep, we produce after our own kind, and we would like this to be a platform where we're producing not only incredible knowledge and wisdom, but acceptance and the ability to be persuasive in a way that is, full of kindness, and it makes sense.
And I would just like to add on top of that, it's like, a lot of people, especially in the circles, like Oracle and I have a close relationship that most people don't exactly fully understand, but just like a lot of people look up to me and my knowledge, Oracle and I look to each other for different things. Okay. And it flows, like energy flows really well. Okay. And again, it's not I'm above her or she's below me. It's that I can trust her to give me a very honest opinion about myself. And that is something that's very, very rare to see. And I see in this chat here, Grace is saying, so I'm confused. Did I make anyone feel unsafe or harm anyone? Okay. And no, Grace, that's not what it is. And we teach law here. And if we cannot practice it amongst ourselves, like if we cannot perform it amongst ourselves, then maybe it's something we shouldn't teach. Okay. And so if somebody feels hurt in such a way, they can bring it up when the hurt is actually happening so that the community, the rest of us, the jury, can hear the argument and decide if some rule or some action should be established, or they can wait and bring it in private, to other people that they talk to, kind of like I ask Oracle, what did you think of my actions in this situation? What did you think of their actions? This is kind of the way it made me feel. This is kind of my understanding. Am I out of line about this? And I've asked other people on this call kind of the same type of questions because I am genuinely interested. And so, after that, it's like there's a big difference between public and private. Okay. If you hurt somebody, like it should be brought to your attention because it's not okay. And the way that it should be brought to your attention is by the accuser. And if the accuser feels so violated that they choose to bring it out into the public, then that's their choice. And when they make that choice, then they should be aware that judgment will be rendered, one way or another. That's kind of the responsibility of being the accuser. It's like I talk with my parents a lot, and when I'm telling them about true law, they're like, well, if just anybody could go into a courthouse and swear out a warrant, then everybody would just go into the courthouse and swear out warrants for people they didn't like for things they didn't do. And it's like, no, not when you have a court of law, because when you walk into a court of law and you go into a courthouse and under the penalty of perjury, you accuse somebody of a crime and then you are found to have lied about that accusation, then you face the punishment that you presented them with. That is the way law works. Okay? So it is very, very risky business in a lot of ways, unless you really know yourself and how to express yourself to be the accuser in public. And if you're not the accuser in public, what should you do? Well, you should probably talk to people you trust about it, people you respect about it, an independent third party, and get their perspective. And if they agree with you in confidence, if you have the type of relationship with the accused, if they are your brethren, then you should go to them in private to settle the matter so that it's not public, so that the public discourse does not get discoursed. Okay? And these are all very, very simple principles that every single religious teaching all across the planet has somewhere in its principles. Okay? Now, they also have a lot of other kind of weird, strange, crazy stuff too, but who are we to judge? We don't know. At least I don't know, and I'm willing to admit that. So, but anyways, just to kind of settle, like, if you have caused somebody harm, there's no reason to believe you have caused harm or hurt somebody or made them feel unsafe unless it is brought to your attention. And depending on how it is brought to your attention can depend on how you wish to handle it. For instance, if a claim were brought in front of the public and it was absolutely true and it happened at the time of the claim with all the witnesses before it, if the wrong party wished to say, you know what, now that you brought that to my attention, I really see what you're talking about, and I comprehend how you could take my actions that way, and I'm sorry that you felt that way. I think that would gain a lot of favor in a judgment. Like, if you held judgment upon yourself and self-corrected your own behavior when it came to your attention, rather than having us correct that behavior, that would work out way better because it would be a higher form of self-government, in my opinion, and self-governing. And again, I don't know that much about truth, but I have studied facts for a really long time. And I have thought about all of this stuff for a really, really long time. And I believe I have a really, really good opinion that deserves to be shared because it is accompanied by true logos, by true logic, by true Christ consciousness. I don't really care what people wish to call it. It is what it is, and you got it, or you're getting it, or you lost it. But hopefully, all of the people who have lost it will be getting it soon. And once they get it, they got it. And I don't know how else to explain it. Because, like Bill Clinton said on the stand, well, it depends on what your definition of it is. Sorry. It's way too late. I'm gonna have to go. I've been up for over 48 hours. Thank you, everybody, for coming out and joining. Thanks, Shon. Thanks, all of the people who've gotten off the call before now. Thank you for all of the excitement with the announcement. I know it was almost an hour ago, I think. It was about 45 minutes ago. So thank you for Mystic Way for bringing that up before we got off the call. Thank you, Consciousness, for being out and participating. JJ, thank you for putting on the call. JD, Monarch, Craig, Oracle, JZ, Jones, Carbon. Carbon, thank you for your awesome question and the almost immaculate answer. Grace, Mia,
Christine.
Oracle, Christine,
Hey,
everybody.
JC, you know I'm Mystic Way, right?
Your Mystic Way?
Yeah, I'm Mystic Way.
Oh.
No, I
Mind
didn't know your
blown.
Mystic Way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's me. You already think me once, so it's all good.
Wow.
I want to be think twice now.
You're not special. Wait, it's late, so we're getting goofy now.
Yeah.
So, I agree. It's late.
Love you, JC, Oracle. We'll see y'all guys next time. Sunday, more than jibber jabber.
Sir.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. It was awesome.
And JJ is going to close out tonight.
The animals inside came out to play.